episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game.
Yes.
Let's meet the panel.
I'm Ari.
I'm Gina.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Josh.
And this is his pen, and I'm taking it.
Already.
You can have it.
I don't want it.
And
what are we going?
the drumsticks in case someone makes a bad joke.
Good idea. What are we going over today, Zach?
We are going over The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha
horrible.
Christie.
How horrible.
Who would murder such an innocent man as Roger Ackroyd?
Well, we'll find out. And we'll also find out he's not as innocent as he
Keep in mind that any of our discussion videos on our channel are not spoiler-free. They are subject to spoilers.
So if you haven't read the book, please turn back now.
Or if you do not mind the fact that there will be a
You
spoiler.
can feel free to keep watching if you don't mind the spoilers.
But
Yes, we gotta,
if you want...
everything about the book will be revealed in this discussion, so if you would like to just not know about that, you might want to. I might even make an individual video about different Agatha Christie novels without spoiling anything. So when that comes out, it might be better to watch that.
And any review on our channel and most likely wrap-ups and hauls are spoiler-free, so you can check those out as well. First question.
Okay. How would you describe the strength in the development of the characters in this novel? Do you believe Dr. Shepard skews their reputation in any way?
I don't like doctors. That's what
I'm just gonna say this right out. It's probably gonna be. We're gonna bring this up. I think what we need to conclude here is that for me, I knew right away, or I knew pretty quickly.
So
I just needed to turn back to one of the statements, and I had the response right there.
The thing that gave it away for me was the chair. Then that kind of stuff.
When I just had to look back and see that he was nervous as he was walking out of the room, there's got to be a reason why you're shaking.
Oh, yeah.
But
it's not like you've overdosed on anything, so I'm pretty sure.
But with regard to, I think that with regard to how Shepard's telling the story, he's telling it sounding like everybody in a possible way can be a suspect.
Exactly.
Even his sister.
Only a killer would put the blame on somebody else.
And he put the blame on everybody.
But here, this is the point I want to make about this, and it pops up in the last chapter. Dr. Shepard is what we call in literature an unreliable narrator. And if you listen to what everything... Can I see your book for just 1 second? I want to quote something. If you look in his very last chapter, which I believe is chapter 25, or is it 26? 26. No. Sorry. 27. Apologia. One of the very first thing he says is, I meant it to be published someday as the history of one of Poirot's failures. The rest of this chapter is not him saying, I'm sorry for what I did. It's him saying, I'm defending what I did. Thank you. That is what the entirety of the Apologia is, or am I be pronouncing
Is
that
it
wrong?
usually... Is somebody usually narrating aside from...
Usually it's either Poirot, or in some stories it's Miss Marple, in some stories it's Timmy and Tuppence. I think it's Timmy and Tuppence. But the best ones are the Poirot ones. And in this book, he's already retired and he happens to be living next to the family. But like the thing with Dr. Shepard, like I said, the more important thing I'm trying to point out here is that in the last chapter, he's not upset about anything. He is defending himself, but since he knows that he's gonna get messed up, he's
willing to throw anybody under the bus that he wishes.
Exactly.
His own sister, who, granted, I think the one
and of course Ralph Patton also
mostly Ralph
because
Patton.
he thinks that he can get away with him being the one at fault. But my point is that the part of the question that Zach asked was about being skewed. I don't think it could be any more skewed, to be honest.
I would think.
But that's
and he did a pretty... I read right through him.
Yeah, me too.
But...
Good thing I'm not a cop either.
Gina?
So, I guess I just wasn't using my little gray cells, because it kind of did.
Oh, man.
Really?
So anyway,
Huntington Gray cells.
He's go away now.
I kind of did. I'm going to admit I was kind of stupid and didn't really realize it because it's the protagonist
You're
and
not stupid. Trust
she
me,
did a
you're
good
not.
job.
Yeah.
Dude, did you just stab
Yeah,
yourself?
you're.
Don't worry, Gina. You're not stupid. It's just that this was a book where it was like a revolutionary thing for it to be the narrator who did it. Josh and I picked up on it pretty quickly, but most people actually do take the whole book to pick up on it. At least that's what I think.
Here's the statement that got me, and he mentions it in the very last chapter as well.
Yeah.
And I quote,
I think I know what statement you're going to say.
"The letter had been brought in at 20 minutes to 9. It was just on 10 minutes to 9 when I left him. The letter still unread. I hesitated with my hand on the door handle, looking back and wondering if there was anything I had left undone. I can think of nothing.
That's when I was sold.
With a shake of the head, I passed out
That
and closed the
definitely.
door behind me."
There's two things in there that makes it obvious that something's up here. One is the easier one to notice, that he was all nervous and he was shaking. Another thing. Number two, it's almost impossible if you're not like paying attention to what's going around you to say an exact time about something. Like it's one of those things where like if you don't have anything around you that you can say this is what time it is, and you can't, you have to guess. You have the specific time. He says like what was that 20 to 9? He said. That's like really specific. It would have been. I think it would have been a little more believable or less believable. I meant like he would be more. It wouldn't have bothered me as much as if he said shortly before 9.
And he was agitated with the fact that he wasn't reading the letter.
He was looking. He knew what time everything happened because he set it up that way. Nobody ever gives an exact time like that when speaking that way. It's usually shortly before 9 or a little bit before 9.
And with regard to the chair, are you referring to the map where on
the chair that was covering up the table?
But you also, on page 81, wasn't the small table was next to Ackroyd's chair? How the heck can the small table go from right next to his chair?
How about you show that to the camera?
Right, the table was moved, so somebody tampered with the evidence.
Yes, obviously.
And the only one that was in the room
was
Shepard. Shepard was the last one in the room.
He wasn't the only one in the room. He was the last one in the room. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I did not have the book. So
Someone argued that Patton went through the window.
Patton was framed. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
Patton was framed.
Yep.
He knew that the Patton was gonna blackmail. Or no, sorry, Mrs. Ferrars. I meant sorry. And it's just that Patton would have been the perfect person to just say, you know, he did it because of what was going on with him, and Shepard just took advantage of that.
And the other thing that really, another thing that brings a sparkle to Shepard's reputation is the fact that he's a doctor.
Yeah.
Like I said,
he was
just trying to get money out of what's her name, Miss Ferrars.
Because in the real world, people who are held in high esteem, like doctors and such, they can get away with things much more easily than you and I can.
Yes, I agree with that.
Here's another thing.
That's the same thing with Garfield.
That's true even today.
President Garfield was shot by a madman and killed by a doctor because the doctor was too narrow-minded to practice sanitary procedures, and he felt that sticking his dirty fingers in the president's body was. But
I did hear about that.
With him, it was arrogance. With Dr. Shepard, it was completely planned out.
Yeah, and it was almost. It almost felt like I know I have a friend who taught me quite a lot about linguistics, and a lot of what he's saying is telling me he doesn't care. That is what I'm getting from him, from a lot of what he said in the book. He just doesn't care.
Right.
He cares about himself and no one else.
Pretty much.
Go to the next question.
You know,
Next question.
I love questions.
That's nice to hear. I'm glad you do. How do you feel the flow of the detective's actions were presented in this novel? Were the notes and maps helpful?
I think so.
Of the. Could you
the notes and where everybody was at a particular time.
Oh, yeah, of course that was
the floor plans. Yeah, I would, and that certainly.
I mean, if they didn't have half of that stuff, then it would be like, wait a minute, you didn't even lead us on to this, you know?
And this was Poirot's.
That's why I like Poirot a little better than Miss Marple. I'm not saying this to be, I'm not being sexist or anything, but like Miss Marple just is not as clear. I've never found, I think there was only one of her books, and that was the, I think it was The Body in the Library, I think. And that was the only one that I felt that was really, you know, that I felt was sequential, and it everything was, I think she's just a little more confusing, but also she's not really a professional. Neither is Poirot for that matter, but Poirot has written more than Marple.
And Poirot is one of my, still, I found him to be, was he?
He's not a psychic, he's just a freelance detective. Well, he's done Ackroyd, he's done Murder on the Orient Express, he's done ABC Murders, he did other ones too, but those are three of the well-known ones.
Most notable.
Curtain was a good one too.
Agatha Christie's signature, or one of her key novels, was not even. It was a standalone, and that was, and then there were none.
Yep.
Anybody have any other?
Poirot kind of gave me the impression that he was going about this like a bloodhound on a scent trail. That he was taking apart. He was going to take this apart piece by piece. Start at the very bottom and work his way to the top.
And that's
definitely he's always like that. And he starts with the little he has, and then finds more and more as he goes along.
And that's how you start. Oh,
very calm and collected.
And remember that he has the he knew the answer way before anyone had even asked him.
That's what I'm saying. Is this guy's like? I'm thinking this to myself. I mean, how does he know? He actually had the experience.
The way that he approached Dr. Shepard.
It was probably the way, from what Josh said earlier, it was probably the way Dr. Shepard was presenting himself. Yeah. That's why that's what made him suspect. He didn't think it was initially, because obviously there was some inconsistencies with the dictaphone going missing near the end. He thought one thing and it was actually another. But now, even just putting him down as a suspect was just enough.
And look at the funeral too. He was so brief about that, and almost as if it was. Just something he showed up to.
Yeah, not important to him.
Yeah, it was very already.
He probably was also reading the body language off the doctor.
Yes,
when he first met him. The body language is one of I work with kids and as a substitute, and there's times when I walk into a room and I'm covering for another whatever.
Yeah. I usually say you can tell a lot about a person by their handshake. That's what I usually say.
That's
I try to give a firm handshake, but there's times I give a dead fish because sometimes I'm just tired. But
I try to give firm handshakes too, even though I'm a girl, so that might not be expected.
Sorry, I should have been a little bit more clear. When I meant handshake, I didn't necessarily mean like this kind of handshake. I meant like any kind of pat on the back.
Yeah.
Come
here, hey,
interaction.
So like an example.
Yes, like something that is the equivalent of a handshake. Because if you I always thought that if you miss a fist bump and you don't go for another one, there's not a lot of care between the two people.
Yeah.
Even though it looks like there could be, there really isn't.
Yeah. I'll show you how I do a fist bump. Who wants to demonstrate? All ready?
$5.
No, that's not
$5.
Let's not go down that road.
Let's go to the next question.
Yeah, let's.
Before we digress.
Question.
Were you able to figure out who committed the murder? Did you figure it out quickly?
Well, as me and Josh have already said,
Josh and I
said, we figured it out pretty quickly.
I came up with the theory. What if it was Dr. Shepard that did it? And I read back, and I pretty much had an idea. I would have been shocked if it wasn't.
Oh, you okay? Yeah, I kind of figured it out when nothing seemed to make sense with any of the other characters, even with Ralph. Even with Ralph being framed like that and having to go to the asylum and everything, I knew immediately it was a red herring. There was just something wrong about it.
They brought someone in from America too.
Yeah.
Who
and like with what's her name, Flora and Major Blunt. Yes, I can imagine Flora might have wanted to do something bad like that, but it wasn't. It just didn't fit. And I was like, well, why can't it be the narrator? I've heard of the term unreliable narrator before, but usually not in mysteries, usually in other kinds of books. So I was like, it could be him. And I was like, I'm going to say it's him for now. And then I got to the end, I'm like, yep.
All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in the court of law.
I knew. I was eventually waiting for you to say.
I love that show, Cops. I love the show, Cops. Not gonna lie.
Don't come for you. What do you think, Gina?
I thought it was kind of clever that they made it so that it was the narrator who did it, because aside from really advanced people, like some of the people at this table, you don't really expect it to be the person who's presented as the protagonist. Cause
Absolutely.
I was reading that and thinking, because I'm familiar with red herrings and mystery stories, so I knew, okay, it's not Ralph. They're making it look like it was Ralph, so there's no way it's him.
Mm-hmm.
I was just waiting for it to be... I was waiting for it to be revealed to someone else, but I'm not really as advanced as some of the other people at this table, and I really didn't suspect the narrator, because a lot of times you don't think it's the protagonist.
And then, of course, when that telegraph came in, that sealed everything. I knew who it was by then.
Yeah. And here's how I figured it out. Of course, like, you know, I'm not advanced. There's no way I'm going to be a detective. I just, as every police officer, detective, caseworker, whatever should do, take the time to go through and analyze every person, because everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Yes, but
until proven innocent, you mean?
Yeah.
I think things were pretty much against Dr. Shepard.
Yeah, and
I think Poirot gave him
At the telegraph
clearest
scene,
option.
At the telegraph scene,
the
definitely.
ultimatum he gave at the end was Poirot gave at the end was extraordinarily like, you know what, do this or you're going to be gone for the rest of your life and you're not going to have a good name and ever. And he just decided to kill himself. I mean,
gave him the.
We didn't actually see it, but we're assuming he's going to.
Mm-hmm.
But that I think the 27th chapter, the I'm sorry, people, I might be pronouncing this word wrong, but the Apologia, I don't know how it's exactly pronounced, but that last chapter is probably one of the best chapters I've ever read by Agatha Christie. Because it's not exactly, ending chapters. Because it's not going out and saying like,
I'm sorry for what I've done.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, he's not apologizing at all. He says, I failed. I'm upset at myself because I wasn't able to give Poirot a failure. I knew Poirot was there, and I knew I could mess him up. I didn't. Now I have to pay for it, and I'm just defending my own actions, and now I'm going to kill myself.
But he had absolutely no remorse whatsoever for the killing.
Yeah. That's what happens when you're hungry.
Yeah, the only remorse he had was the fact that he got caught. That is probably more like
and that's usually what happens, especially, like I said, when I work with kids, not all kids, but some kids I work with when I'm subbing, like earlier we said, body language. When I go in, and some kids, when I'm providing coverage for another para or another sub, or just teacher alone, I'll see the kids and their body language, either they're taking their notes or, especially if they're, elementary, they're like, who is this guy? He looked, now they all know me by now, but especially in the beginning of the year, who is he? Why is he here? The body language. But also still, what was I going to say? You wouldn't know what I was going to say because it's in my head, but...
I have this thing when I first read this book. I was like 15, 16, and
I was 25.
Actually, I was older, and I was like 17. But what happened was that I remember that Dr. Shepard is one of the few characters I've read in books where I visualized him differently at the beginning physically than I do at the end. I remember at the very beginning of the book, I thought he was normal doctor. Lab coat, that's just how I imagine things sometimes to make it easier. And he just looked really clean. And then as I heard a lot of what he was saying, I almost felt like he was tired. And he was getting more tired of hiding things as the book came on. Sure, he still has no remorse, but like physically I could imagine him just not looking as clean and squeaky clean as he did at the beginning of the book.
I shaved last night and look, literally, I have 5 o'clock
Yeah, I got a little bit too.
Any final thoughts?
Dame Agatha Christie. Oh man, I love her books so much. She's probably my favorite mystery writer. She's probably one of my favorite authors in general. This is one of my favorite books. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely one of my favorites. And I think that the ending of this one, for people who are not, who for most people, it is actually a very jump, and it's an ending you're not really expecting.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people.
Hit you in the face.
Yeah, not a lot of people expect the ending. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. You know what I mean? But
I like food.
yeah, but it is a very good book, and if you've probably already read it if you're watching this, but if you have not read it and you want to read it for yourself, even though we've given away the ending, I would suggest picking it up. I'd also suggest picking up a few other Agatha Christie's as well, specifically Murder on the Orient Express, The ABC Murders, and Murder at the Vicarage.
I just want to read this on the beach because, you don't want the guys next to you saying, oh, just kidding. No, it's a great book. I loved it. If I was to say anything negative about it, it would probably be, may I? Yeah. Even though I just lunged at it. If there was anything negative I had to say, it would just... it would basically be my fault because I was too stupid enough not to figure it out right away.
No.
That's a good thing.
It's okay. Like this is not an easy mystery.
I know. But also, you take like I said, you take the time, as every good detective or researcher does. You take that time. You say, okay, here's process of elimination. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say.
And then this isn't I know I figured this one out pretty quickly.
I shouldn't say that.
I remember when I read Murder in the Orient Express. This is spoiler free, by the way. I couldn't figure it out until the very end of the book. That's how good that one was. So this one was just a personal one for me. That was a little
still,
easier.
I would give it a 5 out of 5.
Oh, I'd give it like a 4.5.
Same here.
I'd give it 3.5. But that's. I think that was the fact that the mystery was so easy to.
I think you will like Murder on the Orient Express better than
and I think
this
the characters were, as much as I really liked the way it was written, I think the characters were a little bit paper thin.
You will be even more surprised about the ending of Orient Express than you will about this book. I really suggest you read it.
That sounds like a clickbait comment right there, doesn't it?
Be sure to check that out.
I'll be more surprised than finding out that I'm eating I can't believe it's not butter, and finding out it really is not butter. And then I end up in...
Mrs. Buttersworth.
If you're interested, here is a copy of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Agatha Christie has come out with several mysteries.
At least 100, I think.
And the only things that have sold more than her novels are Shakespeare and the Bible. Already.
I love the Bible.
Oh, and quick thing. If you're a Doctor Who fan and you want to also see what Agatha Christie could have been like in a Doctor Who episode, there is an episode called The Unicorn and the Wasp. Check it out. I think you'll like it.
Alrighty, that sounds like a good recommendation. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now,
keep reading! Keep reading, keep reading, keep reading!
We did not plan that. That was good.